Hey everybody, welcome to the Ronline Report. This man needs no introduction, but I'll do it anyway. Four-time Mr. Olympia, greatest ambassador possibly our sport has ever seen. One of the best bodybuilders to ever come out of Sterling, Massachusetts. At least he's in the top 5. I know that. Please welcome Jay Cutler. How are you, Jay?
Good to see you, Ron, man. I didn't run into you this weekend, so it's good that we can catch up. I was happy to get a message from Steve last night. I was flying back on the plane. He said, "Hey, what do you think about getting on?" And we seem to do this every year, right? I mean, I'll see you at the show hopefully in a couple of weeks in Massachusetts. But
that's right.
Yeah,
Jay Cutler Classic coming up October 30th.
Yeah, it's actually the New England event.
Oh, is it New England? Yeah, right. The Cutler would be the May show.
Yes,
this is the New England.
And it will be in Lynn, Massachusetts. So I'll be out there on the 30th of October to once again have that event, which was canceled last year. So
yeah, great job. And I'm psyched that you moved it out of the city. Everyone loves Boston, but you got parking garage and all that. I assume this Lynn is at a place where you can park and everything.
It's a little more suburban. It's much more convenient, and I think it's more accessible for people. But more importantly, it's Jose actually helped me find the place.
Oh, okay.
So shout out to Jose Raymond, man. You helped me a lot for this because obviously I'm not there. It's a little harder when you're on the other coast.
Right on. And congratulations. I didn't get to go to it, but there was another induction. They had the Hall of Fame. What is this called? The
International Sports Hall of Fame. It's Bob Goldman's Hall of Fame. I was alongside some greats, Billy Blanks and Stephanie McMahon and Marcus Allen, which was he was inducted also, and we had some really great people there that it was quite an honor. I think there was maybe 7 of us, and it was held at the Olympia weekend. Received our awards, and another place in history, man. It's pretty cool looking back, and I was kind of giving my speech and talking about my early days of Joe Weider, and you and I go way back. I mean, I remember seeing you at Gold's Venice when I was coming up, right? And when Lou spotted me for American Muscle magazine back in the day. You don't imagine you ever reached those heights, man. I looked up to all the guys that were on top, and I thought, man, if I could even be a fraction of that. And then sooner or later, here I was, winning Olympias, and now, of course, living the dream of bodybuilding. I was one of the success stories, and I think bodybuilding can be amazing to some people. I mean, it's been amazing to you. Look at you never received a pro card, but you're still living the dream. I think being around this business, and being able to talk to those people that maybe you admired coming up also.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I still remember working for Lou's Wick. I think it was spring of '93. The owner of the Gold's Gym in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Yeah, Andy Stratus. Yeah,
sent us a packet of Polaroids or pictures, something, and he says, "We got this kid at our gym. I don't know if you were even 19 at the time. You're probably still 18."
Yeah, it was 92, I think, actually, 92, when he sent it. Yeah.
Big. You were just this big farm boy looking kid with blonde hair and these massive legs, and you just started training, but you were making such awesome progress. So I said, this kid's going to be good. Little did we know how good you were going to be. But man, another thing I got to touch on is I did see you on stage a couple of times to give out awards for various things over the course of the Friday and Saturday. And every time you came out, it was just thunderous applause. You're one of the few. I'd say you, Lee Haney, and Ronnie are probably the 3 guys that whenever they make an appearance on stage to give awards or anything, the people just go nuts. They love you because you've done such a great job. You're still so relevant. You're still all around. You're still deeply involved in the sport. You got your supplement line. You put on. I don't know how many shows you put on a year.
I got 4. I got 4.
4. Yeah.
I have 4. But it's man, it's just the social media has been one of those things, and we talk about it often. Where it's a little. It takes a lot of effort, right?
Yeah.
And it can be frustrating at times because you're trying to figure out what content to put up. I mean, for you, it's a little easier because you're doing interviews and you're figuring. I'm sure it's very difficult for you trying to lock people down to say, okay, be on this time to come on and talk about things and carry conversation sometimes. But listen, we've gone through phases. I mean, you're seeing a lot of young guns, and we'll get to talk about that with the Olympia. We're starting to see a change in the guard, but fortunately, Ronnie and myself were a transition period from the magazines to social media. And we were very active in the books, and we were very active on DVDs, which made us a little, accessible compared to the other guys. But also, I think we had a little more experience with, okay, film and content is everything. And that's what I try to preach to these young guys. And, I'll talk about that with like Hunter and Nick Walker, and like they put out their content. They're not afraid to show. And I think really that's what hurt some of the guys that you see that are now, phasing out a little bit. They weren't as active on social media, and people want to get to know the person more than, hey, I've worked, seen the workout routines or how they compete on stage. They want to know how that person gets to that point. So I encourage everyone, watching this interview, even if you're not at that level, just be prepared, because I was a guy that never thought I'd get to that level, and I was an introvert, but I had to learn to really kind of be in the forefront and ahead of, putting out the content. And to this day, I still do that. And that's why I think you see myself, Ronnie, and, Dexter was there. He was getting, John Roden was there. I mean, there was a lot of Mr. Olympias in the house. And I think, we all have to stay active, and that's where the progression is going to be, and the respect factor will lie,
Yeah. I mean, as far as being active and putting out content, you have your channel on YouTube, Jay Cutler TV. Nobody puts out as much. No Mr. Olympia for certain puts out as much content and stays as relevant. You have your Dave Bourlet interviewing all the up and comers and top stars and everything. You've really paved the way and shown a lot of even the younger guys. This is how to do it. This is how to put out good content that's engaging, that people want to see. And you don't have to wait for magazine photographers to pay attention to you like the old days. You can make your own stardom now. It's crazy. It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty much a changed game. And as you see, some people are just influencers that are popular in fitness.
Yep.
And others like a Bumstead, who's, kind of like a cross between social media, and now he's, a Mr. Olympia multi-winner.
Yep.
Most popular guy in the business. And it's just really cool to see that. And his content's I was just looking at one of his videos on YouTube today, and he had like almost 1 million views in a day, So it just shows how many eyes are on, that classic division.
Yeah. And in fact, I don't know if you were at the Meet the Olympians at all Thursday night.
I didn't go. Yeah.
So Ramy had a line from his table to the wall. Nick Walker had a line from his table to the wall. Hunter had a good crowd waiting for him, but Bumstead, dude, his line wrapped all the way around the hall. Like there had to be at one point 1,000 people waiting just for a chance to take a picture with him or say hi to him. Yeah, he's got the youth on his side, and like it's social media. He engages these kids, and they grew up with the smartphones and all that, and YouTube. So he's one of them. But let's talk about the show a little, man. This was one of the best Olympia weekends I can recall in many, many years. Exciting, well run. Dan Solomon and Jake Wood, they've done a hell of a job putting this thing, especially in the last 2 years have been COVID years, and they still managed to make this thing bigger and better than ever. It's like a rock concert. In fact, my ears are still bleeding.
Oh, it was loud. It was going through you a couple of times,
Yeah, my fillings and my teeth were coming out. But let's start with Ramy versus Brandon, because that was a battle. I mean, a lot of people thought Brandon had it. If you look at the score sheets from Friday, they were only 1 point apart. Ramy only had a 1 point lead after Friday. He widened the gap Saturday night because he tightened up a lot. But everyone had their own opinion. Me and Milos got a lot of heat because we had Ramy winning from the get-go. I love Brandon's physique, but I didn't see it. I didn't see him getting the win over Ramy. He's the champ, and it's not like he didn't bring it. So where did you stand on that when you were watching?
Yeah, so just so everyone knows, I flew in late Friday, so I didn't get to see the prejudging, but I was watching it live from the plane.
Okay.
So I was able to see kind of what was going on in the comparisons, but the videos never tell the real story, right?
True.
So that's something I want to state in that. But when I was there on Saturday, and listen, let's go back, let's rewind a year, because the placings were exactly the same minus Phil Heath. So take Phil Heath out of the equation. He was third the year prior.
Right.
So you basically had Ramy, Brandon, and then you had Hadi, he was fourth, if you remember, in 2020, right?
Right.
So we didn't have Phil in the contest. Listen, I don't think Brandon was a little fuller. I don't think he was as conditioned as the year prior, but his legs looked a little more balanced. Ramy definitely was off on Friday. There's no question. I don't think that he was like he was the year prior. And Hadi seemed to be very similar to the year prior. This is judging by what I saw on video. And he just, another thing, it's just a victim of being a little shorter, and and having two guys that are a lot bigger. So his condition was probably the best in the show besides Nick Walker, I feel. Nick Walker and him were probably the two most conditioned guys. But when I saw Saturday night unravel, I saw Ramy come back better. Always the case. I think Brandon, he looked great. My understanding was close on Friday night. On Saturday, I did see how Ramy could pull it out. He's just got overall size. He was conditioned enough. Listen, I would have loved to see Brandon reclaim the crown. I know what that feels like, and that's nothing. Like, I love seeing Ramy win number 2 also. But I have a feeling for all these guys, because I was in that position before, right? I was trying to repeat, and then of course I lost the title and I came back to win it. So it was close. I don't think it was a hands down slam dunk. I don't think Ramy walked out like some of the years Phil Heath walked out, or like 2009 when I won it back. I mean, it was pretty convincingly, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel it was as convincing as the year prior. But listen, it's all about circumstance and how people fall into these, each show. I mean, we talk about, condition or size, or, I just think that it was closer than what people think it was.
There were a good amount of people that said Hadi Choopan got robbed. He should have won the Olympia. Certainly condition and everything. Yeah. And he's so much dense muscle on that frame. But could you give him the title when you have, Brandon's a lot bigger. Ramy's just like twice his size. He's just enormous.
Yeah, it falls back to, and I hate to make the comparison, but it's like the Dexter Jackson, when he was trying to battle like Ronnie, myself, where like he might have been in sharper condition in a lot of areas than we were, because we were so big.
Yeah.
It's just, I still think Mr. Olympia, is a battle for, a lot of muscle and size. And I think that's where, Hadi just doesn't get the nod, because it's just, condition may be great, but it's a structure. It's a size factor. And he was the people's champion. He did get crowned people's champion. So he's just got, with him, he's just got such a, he comes in great shape. He's very hard when he hits the poses. If you notice, when he goes into a pose, he hits those. He just has that likable persona on stage. And I think that's what people, they had that with Gunther. They had it with Rolly. You remember, he was the people's champ, and they love those guys. I mean, Ramy has that in a sense, because, he's just, you can tell he's a personable guy. And I think that's really what people fall in love with when they look at someone and they cheer that person on. Plus, the Middle East is really getting strong in bodybuilding, as is Brazil. And I think that's where you have a lot of the fan base following from. And Hadi was kind of a guy last year that made a mark. I mean, right away he is questionable. People thought he could, even in 19 when he competed, I thought he could have done better. I think he was 3rd that year or something.
Yeah.
And hey, it's all choice, but I still think he had a great showing. He shouldn't hold his head down anything, and he just he's in the hunt for it. So,
all right, let's talk about the young kids. To us, they're young kids. Hunter Labrada and Nick Walker. That was like the battle that a lot of the younger fans were really paying more attention to than Ramy and Hadi and Brandon, because especially Nick Walker has such a huge fan base now. Hunter too. So their fans were going back and forth on social media, cussing each other out. Hunter sucks. No, Nick sucks. They were, each one thought the other one was blowing the other one away. And in the final tally, Hunter edged him out for 4th, and he was just behind in 5th. But that was exciting. Did you see it going that way, 4th and 5th with those two?
You know what? I mean, listen, I'm close to Nick. Okay. And we stay in touch, and I figured that, there would be, there would be a battle. He would be in the mix there. We kind of knew that. Hunter definitely surprised me, because to go from 8th last year to position where he can be in the top. I mean, I figured he could push in the top 6. And I think it was always conditioned with him meeting like dryness. And and listen, not to take anything away, I always had somewhat of a similar issue, right?
Yeah.
And I think, with him, it was kind of the shape overweighed the condition in that decision. If I was, listen, I'm not a judge, so I don't like to say how I would have judged it, but it's hard because I'm definitely favorable towards Nick because of our relationship at this point. But listen, Hunter cannot be denied. I mean, I think you're looking at either one of those guys as a potential Mr. Olympia winner in the future. Walker definitely had the momentum this year. We expected him to be there, but did we expect Hunter? That was the question. We didn't expect him to be fourth. So I think, that his shape really carries him. And that's where you're going to have a guy that, his shape is a little more prettier than Nick Walker. Nick Walker definitely was harder, drier, had some stellar shots, but I think, where sometimes those lines, are drawn, it was close. It could have been a coin toss. I mean, when you're fourth and fifth, and I don't know what the point spread was, I'm sure there's some judges that saw it for Nick to be in fourth. It's just one of those things where, it's kind of like a judge's decision, and, I'm happy with the call. But like I said, I thought Nick definitely had the condition where Hunter had the better shape display.
So now I'm curious, Nick's final score was 49, total 49 points, gave him fifth. I'm just curious how close it was. Hunter, Labrada, 40. So they were 9 points apart in the final result. But I'm sure you've also heard Nick's been compared to you many, many times in the past few months because such overwhelming mass and such width to the shoulders. He's a little shorter than you and everything, but and you came out of the gate very young, very strong too. So kid's got a hell of a future ahead of him. I mean,
yeah, listen, I mean, I told him after, I got to speak to him and his family for a short period. And I said, listen, Nick, I know he came in swinging, he was going to win it, and I loved his confidence. But I said, listen, I was second to last in my first. Yeah. I was eighth the second year. And then, of course, I moved to second. So, I mean, the guy, he's already won the NOC Arnold Classic in the same year. I mean, I got fourth at my first Arnold. I got 11th at my first Night of Champions, which is, the New York Pro now. Yeah. And of course, I won it in 2000. And then, of course, I went back and won Arnold's, in a row. So, I mean, it's one of those things. The kid's already got an amazing track record. He's 1 year out of pros, which it took me 2 or 3 years before I actually started winning contests. Yeah. And I was, around the same age. I think I broke through and landed at my first Olympia at 27, I think, when I was second for the first time. Right. And, and he's well on his way. And I think he has the right head for it. I think you're going to see a lot of content from him, which is key in building his brand now. And, he is traveling, doing some guest posings. This is where exciting because I think these guys now can guest pose, right? Oh. I think, you have some guys that, people are going to pay to see some of these guys, and it's kind of exciting time for bodybuilding, actually, to see some new blood come in. And, Leela brought a guest posed at one of my first shows in Schenectady, New York. And I was on the phone with my mom this morning. And I said, Mom, who got fourth? I said, do you remember that guy that guest posed Leela brought? She said, I remember the name. I said, yeah, well, his son is now a contender for the Mr. Olympia. And she's like, wow, it just shows how fast time goes by for us, right? Seriously. Well, but she, crazy, and, now to see the new blood come in, and pushing out some of the old guard, it's a little, it's tough for me to see for those guys because I know how it feels. I had to get to that point where it wasn't as successful for me, I guess. The new guys started coming in. So it's just cool to see.
Yeah, I remember Hunter in a baby carriage, probably 1 year old at one of the shows with his mom pushing him around. I think it was toward the end of the very end of his career. Competitive, but yeah, it's crazy that little baby is now top 4 in the world. Bonac, a lot of the older fans, the more people have been following it for a while. They were a little alarmed that he didn't beat either one of those guys. I've seen him bigger. I've seen him a little sharper, but I thought his condition was right on. He's perfect. He's still got that great balance, that muscle density, very, very reminiscent of Dexter in a lot of poses. I don't know. I was torn. I thought he might have been able to push ahead of one of those two.
Yeah, to be honest, and I fell victim of paying attention to like when they compared, because they did a call out, you know, they took Brandon and Ramy out of a call out and they did like a whole bunch of guys, Ian and Hunter and Nick and Bonac. Yeah, and Akeem, whatever. So there was so many guys. I lost Bonac a little bit on the comparisons because, you know, I was trying to see, okay, who's going to make the move. And I had my eyes kind of for Nick and Hunter because it seemed like that's where the judges were going, right? They kept moving them to the middle and they put Bonac on the outside edge. So you tend not to pay as much attention, but it's hard for me to see him. I considered him a front runner in the beginning, but it's hard to see him as, you know, when he's not in the mix like that. Okay, what's the difference between before and now? And I don't know. They talked about his leg size from before, and I don't know if he's fixed that.
Yeah,
but you're right. I thought he was in good condition, but I think it's another one of those smaller stature type guys. You know, he's not as tall as the other guys. And you had two guys. I mean, I guess Nick isn't super, super tall, but, you know, just more mass. You know, it's once again, it's mass that overrides like, you know, what Bonac brought to, which was, you know, more shape and of course, conditioning, you know, so and listen, with Nick being his condition and his size, you know, it's hard to beat that. Doesn't matter what, you know, if Bonac's shape is a little better, you know, Nick was just hard as nails.
Yeah. The only other guy I want to talk about in opens, because I wonder where he goes from here, is Rolly Winkler. For him not to make the top 10 in the Olympia, this is a guy that 2018, he was a people's champion. He got third place. And there were arguments that year when it was Shaun, Phil, and Rolly in the top three that he could have been higher that year than third. He got a lot of the size back because I saw him at that Chicago show a couple months back, and I was like, he's done. He's done. His body's just shutting down on him. He can't even hold the mass anymore. But he got most of the mass back. Condition was not.
Yeah, he didn't have the condition. So I don't know if he had to fill out from the size, from being down in size. And, you know, listen, the guy's in his mid 40s. Yeah. And he's very, very disappointed. But I, you know what? I still think he could get up there and do some damage. I don't think he should give up. You know, he's still Rolly. I mean, he's still got that, like we talked about, he's got the size. He just needs to nail the condition. His condition was definitely off. I mean, as was Akeem's, right? I mean, we saw Akeem pushing that top 6 last year, and, you know, he wasn't his best either. And you saw Ian edge these guys out, you know, in placings, and he finished the same exact as 7th, you know, place, which, you know, he looked good. I mean, it just comes down to, you know, with structure and the comparisons on who he stood next to. But, you know, he held a pretty solid position. And I mean, second at the Arnold, he had a very successful year. So, you know, he's a guy to watch for on the come up now. And, you know, but Rolly, I expect to be back, man. I don't know where he goes from here and where he's going to train or whatever else. I did get to speak to him after he was a little down, but, you know, we've kind of all been there. So, you know, I encourage him to stand up and, you know, come back better.
Well, so 212, what a battle between reigning champion Shaun Clarita and Derek Lunsford, who's coached by your old coach, Honey Rambod now. I thought Derek finally showed what he's capable of. The past couple of years, I've been disappointed because I follow him. I know what he looks like leading up to shows. And then on show day, I was like, oh, what did you do? What did you do? Because he'd either be a little flat, a little spilled. Something was always off what I was expecting. Hani brought him in and it was enough. But there was still, that was another one. Huge debates going on. A lot of people had Shaun winning. Even after it was over, they were saying, nope, we still think Shaun should have won. Both very, very different looks, but man, I would not want to have had to pick between them.
Yeah, and listen, I'm speaking. Unfortunately, I missed that whole thing. I missed the prejudging. I missed the finals. Like I said, I did get to see video, but you know, from what I see, you know, you had two guys. You know, Derek finally, what we predicted for many years, just like we did with Ramy. If the guy put it together, he's got the structure. Where you got, you know, Shaun, who's a little smaller, right, structure, but packed with muscle. And it sucks for him because he came back as Mr. Olympia and he was not, I think he was great. I don't think it was he better last year? Hard to really say, but he was close enough where, you know, he kind of, you know, he was the defending champ, and it just, Derek put it together, man. And it comes over, it's a structure and the size once again. I mean, the shape, we always thought he was the heir apparent to Flex Lewis. He wasn't able to fulfill that. And it's kind of funny, when I learned he was working with Hani, I said, well, that's it. I said, that's it. He's going to win Mr. Olympia. And we kind of predicted that all through the year. We stay in touch. We communicate, him and I, and, and he was very hungry for it. He was up at Hani's training consistently. And, I knew what he was bringing. He was excited for it. You saw a video of him 8 weeks out or something. He was crazy, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of knew what was coming, but the question was, is he going to make weight, and how flat was he going to be? And I still think at prejudging, he was a tad flat through the upper torso from what I see.
Yeah.
But he really slammed the door on Friday night when he was able to come back a little more fuller. The question is, where does he go from here? I think he'll come back and defend it next year.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how long he's going to stay at 212, because he gets up to, I've seen him at 250 in the off season, and it's a pretty hard lean 250. You would look at him and say, there's no way he can get down to 212. There's just no way.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow, Hani, but I know that was not an issue. I said, Hani will get him at 2. He'll bring him in.
Hani never was concerned about him making weight. So I'm curious to know, when you do have him on, what he says about that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to find out. Let's just talk last thing, a classic physique, because Bumstead, man, 26 years old, 3rd consecutive Olympia title, man. And this was a guy a couple of years ago with that kidney issue. I was starting to wonder, he might not be around the sport. He might just decide enough is enough. I'm not going to deal with my health issues and this, but he's looking phenomenal. Last year, he came back with his back looked like it was twice the size. Some people think he's the poster boy, the perfect ideal for classic physique. Other people are upset, saying he doesn't look like the guys from the 70s and 80s. So he shouldn't be winning the Olympia and setting that standard. It should go to someone like a Terrence Ruffin or Breon, who's a little more harkened back to those older style physiques, the Frank Zanes, the Serge Nubres, and all that. But again, Milos and I, we had him. He just shows up tonight and he wins again.
Yeah. But it's kind of like the written thing. I mean, he's already won it twice, right? So you kind of have that standard. So if the guy comes back and he's actually better or similar, and there's no one really coming up that's very dangerous and challenging him, I mean, he's kind of the clear winner. And I felt that. I was excited to see, Terrence and Breon through the year talk about how, hey, this is their time, right? And we saw Terrence win the Arnold, and he defended over there, and then of course coming to Olympia, and same placings as last year, man, 1-2, right? In third. Breon fell to 3rd place, and he was disappointed. I watched him train with Cormier all year. Nothing to hold his head down. None of those guys should hold their head down. I mean, Chris just kind of has, right now he has everything on lock, man. He came in shape. He's got that height. He's got that shoulder width. I made a statement earlier in the season, which gave me, people kind of gave me a little flack for, because I said, he could actually win the Mr. Olympia someday if he actually decided to train for that later. And putting all the health aspect, I don't know what his health is. I mean, I didn't even know he had those issues. I don't follow it as close as I probably should. And, obviously if guy's competing, I'm assuming he's healthy, right?
Yeah,
I'm not,
it's
I'm not assuming the guy's pushing his health, and no one's going to danger that, because health is the most important thing. But, listen, I always said, like, in 10 years, the guy, if the kid's 26 or whatever he is, he'd be 36. I mean, if the guy won the Olympia, there's going to be a whole different field of guys there than what you see now. It's not going to be, but he really could, if he pack on the size, if he really wanted to. Yeah. But obviously I'm not saying that's what he should do. I mean, he should dominate this division for as long as he can, and, then work with his business. He seems to be on a straight path for success. Yeah. So, I was happy to see that. There was a guy in that class, though, that was 5th. That was unbelievable.
Ramon.
Yes. Unbelievable. That kid. He's dangerous. That kid, I don't know what his weight cutoff is, but he looked dense up there. He was hard. And I was super impressed with his look, for sure.
Yeah. And you made reference to Brazil, because for a few years, everyone was coming out of the Middle East. And now we're seeing this influx of amazing athletes in a lot of different divisions. Bikini, this wellness, they're dominating wellness, obviously. The classic, I didn't even expect classic physique to get any new people out of Brazil, but 212, Brazil is pumping out some champions lately. They must be going through some renaissance of bodybuilding down there or something.
Well, they're definitely doing it. And on the bikini side, I know we don't really talk as much on bikini and muscular development, but I just want to shout out Jennifer Dorie because she trains here. That's Mark Anthony's girlfriend. And, that's, she was second last year. Janet retired. She won the Arnold and, of course, won the title. So another title in Las Vegas is always great. I saw Laura Lee, she was here for a minute and she, did amazing. She finished, that was her first time she did the Olympia. She finished second. Now she's back into position second. Both young women doing it. And, it's just really great to see that. And, of course, that division continues to grow. They had like 35 girls in the lineup, which I think is crazy. And, like you said, a lot of Brazilian. I mean, Angelica held it for years and Issa had won it. Yeah. So it's really great to see the success of that division.
Yeah. And just as a side note, I think Las Vegas has become the new Mecca in the United States anyway.
It's crazy, man. Like, I mentioned, Flex Lewis's gym and now Hidatata and Iris's gym. I'm training there quite a bit at the Powerhouse. Yeah. We have the Fit Club, which you see a lot of my videos. We have Kilo Club, which is the old City Athletic with Jay Jung. We have Lift Factory, which is the hardcore. And of course, the EOS Fitnesses and the LVACs. I mean, there's a different gym to train at every single day of the week. And wow. I think it's just really great that, this place is kind of like the place to come now. And it's going to make the show that much more exciting next year when the Olympia is back in Vegas. If you notice the signage when you walked in that expo and it said, "See you in Vegas in 2022." I was able to sit with Jake Wood and Dan Solomon yesterday and talk a little bit about how exciting Vegas is going to be. And I thought the Olympia was a great success, Ron. I think there were 6,000 people in the audience. And I mean, the Orleans, you saw those, it was probably like almost 10,000 there at its peak. Yeah. And now, to see it that close, I mean, in a flat ballroom, right. To think about what it's going to be like at Planet Hollywood and have the Sands Expo again. I know the Expo was a little limited still because, it's still a little strange out there. People are still a little nervous. I was enjoying all your content. I love what Steve and you guys are doing over there with, getting you're always at every show, man. And I think it gives people an insight on what people are thinking and the content is important for those viewers that can't attend these events. But I encourage everyone, if you haven't experienced the Mr. Olympia contest, man, you got to try it out, especially in Vegas next year. It'll be exciting. And I can't wait for the build up for it. And, what new front runners we're going to see. The sport, I don't know how you feel it, but I feel like there's a lot of positivity of growth right now. Yeah. And I think we're seeing some new faces come in. Like I mentioned, in every division, there were some new faces. I mean, that came through. Even in men's physique, we saw a couple of new guys pop up that pushed out some of the older guard for this one. And it's just really exciting. I'm kind of a fan of it now, man. It's kind of weird to be on the other side and know that I'm so removed now that I can cheer on certain guys and enjoy like the competition. And I know what it feels like from every position, whether it's you're placing last, middle, or the first. I was in all positions at the Olympia.
Yeah. Well, I know the athletes appreciate the fact that you still follow the sport and who all the people competing now are, because a lot of the guys from even your era, which wasn't that long ago, they're kind of out of touch. They don't really, they're beyond it. They moved on, but the fans appreciate that someone that they look up to and respect and admire like you knows who they are and goes to the show and claps and cheers for them. That really means the world to these guys coming up and the girls.
Yeah. I try to go on Instagram and I try to follow even some of the people that I don't know. If, I see they follow me, and I try to comment on pictures. I spend every night, Ron, going through Instagram and I look at things that I'm tagged through or whatever, or, and I'll try to comment, even if I just put like a muscle or something, just for the engagement, because I know it helps with algorithms with people, but also it just shows, the respect factor, right? There's nothing better than, you don't know how many people stop me and say, "Hey, I appreciate you liking and commenting on my pictures." And that's what I get a lot with people that don't necessarily know me on a personal level. I follow them, or even if I come across their stuff and I don't follow them, I still try to show engagement to encourage people, because that's what it's all about. And, you're never bigger than one person, because I can tell you, Ron, coming from, Sterling, Mass, it's super small area. I didn't ever expect to leave there. And I was flattered when I was able to be in the books and be able to, meet people like Joe Weider and be respected by Jim Mannion, and, of course, be contracted by Steve Bleckman and Muscular Development Magazine, be on the covers of Flex and Muscle and Fitness and all these books. Yeah. And now, of course, transition to social media and be able to interact with people that are encouraging people all over the world. And like we talk about, it's a world-renowned thing now. It's not just in the United States, it's expanding in the Middle East, Brazil, and all the other foreign countries. So, and Iran, I mean, look at the fan base from Iran, and dude, it's crazy, right?
It's funny, out of all the covers MD has had over like 60 years, however long the magazine's been around, what's the number one cover?
Yeah, the yellow quad stomp, man.
The Jay Cutler quad stomp. That was like the most, I think that's the most iconic bodybuilding photo. It's Bernal shot that of all time. I mean, there's a lot of old pictures of Arnold I remember distinctly, but that shot, yeah.
I mean, listen, I tell the story all the time. The quad stomp was never planned. I literally, when I walked out, and I want everyone to pay attention to this because they think that was an intentional picture. Yeah. I literally looked at my leg to make sure it was cut. I wanted to make sure the stride, because I was a striated leg the most.
Yeah.
And I actually went down and I stomped it to make sure that the cuts were there. And of course, when you do that, right, you kind of tense your whole body because you're looking down.
Yeah.
And that's where the quads, and they snapped that picture and history was made. So, Steve and Per, thank you for the opportunity, man. It's all these kids this weekend came up to me and they're like, "Your quad stomp's legendary." That's what they told me. Yeah. So
I mean, I've seen a million guys emulate that pose on their Instagram, and they always tag you.
Well, we did a TikTok challenge on it actually, and we said, show the best TikTok, and I was sending out free product to the people for the best quad stomp remakes.
Cool. Well, I want to let everyone know, if you're in the New England area, any of those states where you can get to Lynn, Massachusetts, it's just a little north of Boston. October 30th is the NPC New England Championships. That's our big show. That's the regional show that we've all been going to for the past 40, 50 years. And you will get a chance to see co-promoter Steve Weinberger and Jay Cutler. You'll see Jay Cutler there. And Jay, you are, dude, nobody is as good to his fans as you, I don't think. I see you talk to everybody, take pictures with everybody. People talk to you and they feel like they've known you for their whole lives. I like just sitting back sometimes and watching the interaction with you and the fans. It warms my heart. It's cool.
It's always good, man. It's always good to catch up. And, like I said, I appreciate what you guys are doing, and hopefully we can do it again here in the future. And hopefully I'll see you at the contest here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Information at npcnortheast.com, npcnortheast.com. Come on down. I'll be there for sure. All right. Well, Jake, thank you so much for taking the time. Always a pleasure. Love catching up with you. Love getting your insights on the shows, of course, because you've been up on that stage many times. You've done it all. So thank you, Jay Cutler.
And listen, I always appreciate you repping my shirt. We were just on talking about when this shirt was from, and it was from 2008, 2009 area. So I'm repping. The reason I started training was Sylvester Stallone, and Rocky IV was actually the movie that inspired me. So people always thought it was bodybuilders that got me inspired to get to the gym, but I thought Stallone was the most jacked guy I've ever seen in Rocky IV. He was 154 pounds. So that's why I started training, was because of Sylvester Stallone. So
how many times did you watch that training montage where he?
I still listen to it, Ron. When I still, want to get into training and stuff, doing cardio, I actually have it on a playlist. So it's one of those things. So you guys that haven't seen Rocky IV, I don't know who hasn't on this planet,
come on.
But it's definitely one of those inspiring films, right? It seemed like the whole movie was just was music to get you pumped up. And
dude, I used to come out of those Rocky movies just bouncing off the walls.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool because I got to meet Sylvester Stallone. You remember when he had In Stone, and I remember I got a chance to meet him, and he said, "I'm a fan," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've been watching this guy since I was 12 years old." And he invited me to come to. He had this Contender show out here in Las Vegas. And he invited me to come, and man, he was always great to me. And it's just amazing when you meet your heroes like that. And I talk about Van Damme. I got to meet him, and he was inspiration with Bloodsport. Yeah. And he said the same thing. He came across in Gold's Gym Venice and said, "Jay, I'm a fan. I follow you." And it's just amazing that these guys are the reason I started bodybuilding, and here we are today. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is. Well, All right, that wraps it up. Appreciate it. Guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like, do the thumbs up, all that good stuff. We appreciate it. This has been the Ronline Report with your 4-time Mr. Olympia champion, Jay Cutler. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.